Hey everybody, Mark here. Welcome back to the Highways and Hedges Monday School Series on holiday stresses, how to handle it biblically. And of course, we are now into part three. We already covered part one was all about prayer, making sure you're praying through those daily stresses as they come up. And of course, last week we were talking about having a balanced life, really making sure that you're setting those priorities properly and that you are following them. So, in moving right over here into part three, I want you to open up to Matthew chapter 5, verse 37. And this is going to tie in very nicely into part three in beating the stress, which is learning how to say no, knowing that a no is very powerful in your priorities. Look at Matthew 5:37. It says, "But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil." What I want you to see here is even the Bible says there are times we are supposed to say no. If you haven't yet learned to say no and to say it politely and firmly and often, a lot of times you're inviting untold stress right into your life, especially when you are under a time crunch or under a financial crunch when we're getting around the holidays. Uh, if you can't say no when it's appropriate to family members or friends or to your church or to coworkers, you'll find yourself very overcommitted, underappreciated, and very frustrated. And those are all things that you do not want to be as you roll into what is supposed to be the most joyous time of the year. Look over at Mark chapter 1, verse 38. And I want you to see here, it says, "And he said unto them," this is when Jesus was, of course, going into Galilee. "And he said unto them, Let us go into the next towns, that I may preach there also, for therefore came I forth." And you might say, "Mark, that really doesn't make any sense." Go back just a few verses, and I want you to see what the ask was. Look at verse 35, now all the way through 38. "And in the morning, rising up a great while before day, he went out and departed into a solitary place, and there prayed." He's making time to pray, and he knows where his priorities are. Verse 36, "And Simon and they that were with him followed after him. And when they had found him, they said unto him, All men seek for thee." What they're saying is, hey, everyone wants to talk to you. You know what? You are everyone's first priority. Lord, you have to fall in and you have to make sure you're helping out all these people. Verse 37. And when they, verse 38, "And he said unto them," this was now his response, "Let us go into the next towns, that I may preach there also. For therefore came I forth." What you can really read that as, folks, I already have other priorities. Thank you so much. I'm so glad everyone was here, but I have to keep moving. Look at verse 39. "And he preached in their synagogues throughout all Galilee, and cast out devils." What this is saying is Jesus himself had to make priorities, and he had to learn to say no. He never would have gotten out of any of these countries had he not said no. They would have kept him there. But he had to be about the Father's business. Just remember, you have a right to say no to requests that you consider unreasonable or inconvenient. It's not being rude. You don't have to be rude when you say no. It is a biblical statement that we are allowed to say no to make sure that our priorities stay in line. Let's follow that this week. This week. Take stuff off of your plate that only lends to add more stresses to you, and live biblically. Hope you have a blessed week, and till we talk again. Bye-bye.